Today I have the pleasure of being here with Damien LeVeck, who is the writer and director for The Cleansing Hour, which is a Shudder original, which is out now that you can check out. Can you go ahead and tell us about the film?
Yeah, well, The Cleansing Hour, it's about these two guys who run a webcast where they stream staged exorcisms that they pass off as real. And then one day, a girl that they have ends up being actually demon possessed, and the demon holds the crew hostage, and they have to figure out how they're going to get out alive before the show clock runs out.
Let me tell you, this is something that my parents have always told me growing up. I grew up Christian, saying that if you mess with this stuff enough, it's going to come back and get you. And as I was watching the film, that's the first thing I thought of my mom's words.
Oh yeah, well the possessed girl Lane even says it in there. She says, "You fuck with the bull, eventually you get the horns."
Right, right. So I'm really curious. Where did this story originate for you?
Well, I've been working as an editor for the better part of 15 years, and I've spent a good amount of time in reality TV. And I've always just been fascinated with the power of editing and the ability that it has to manipulate people into believing something is real when it's not, which is very much the case in reality TV. And I'm also fascinated by the idea that if you have a grainy, shaky cell phone video or a bad camera that's like just an old camera, if you see something in that footage, it always sort of feels more verite. It feels more believable. So I sort of combined those ideas with, my love for exorcism horror specifically, and just imagine, like, what if there's someone trying to pass off an exorcism as real? And I wanted to do something different from like a live stream type movie, by like taking camera footage and making it look like it was shot on, like a super 8mm video camera. Which we did, in the movie. Actually, we actually shot on some mini DV, and we shot on one super 8mm camera, and really tried to make it look authentic in that way.
So how did you decide on, better way to ask the question, what kind of research did you do in order to kind of showcase an exorcism, showcase a demon, the power of a demon, and how did you go about choosing that?
Well, I've been into this stuff for a really long time, so I've done a lot of research about just exorcisms in general. How they differ between religions, and just studied a lot of demonology as well, to try and make the movie as authentic as possible. I do personally believe that demon possession is a real thing. I do believe in demons. I thought that, for the character of Drew, he's a guy who's really into this stuff too. And he's put together this whole database of all the demons that he's researched. So I figured he would have access to the same stuff that I have access to. So we got to make it as authentic as possible.
Can you talk about Alex Angelis's Lane character and how she did as herself, and then as that possessed demon? Because I thought she did fantastic.
Yeah, I think Alex has one of the most memorable demon possession roles ever. Really, it's really just, she blew me away. I knew she was good coming in, but going back and watching the movie after having been away from it for a while, it really does blow me away at just how remarkable she was. And she did have this challenge of playing two roles, so she and I worked together quite a bit to try and figure out the best way to sort of differentiate between Lane and when possessed Lane is talking. So there's a physicality to the way that she embodies possessed Lane. Possessed Lane, even though she's sitting down, she moves differently. It's sort of like this idea that there's a foreign body inhabiting her, so it doesn't know how to move her naturally the way she would naturally move. So she helped create this she made it sort of feel like she was being puppeteered almost. And I think it's very effective, and it feels very natural too. She's just a tremendous talent. And I recommend that everyone see this movie just for that, because if you like this genre, you might oftentimes the exorcism genre has been in many ways just done to death, but this is a way of seeing something new that hasn't been done before, and it's exciting for that reason. So I recommend everybody check out the movie. It's on DVD, and also to see the short film as well, which you see another actress. We had Heather Morris in the short film, and she did some interesting stuff too with the way that she portrayed a demon. So, or being a demon possession. We really lucked out with their talent. Alex, Ryan, and Kyle were really tremendous, and really made making the movie a lot easier for me, just because they were so professional and just overall very sweet people as well.
I found that your portrayal of Lane being possessed was really clever because of the fact that in the beginning of the possession, she had somebody, her fiance, in her ear, telling her how to do it, and then you can kind of you were able to distinctly note the moment when, uh-oh, that's not her anymore. I really like that about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, I wanted everything to be fairly subtle. And, at the beginning, the only thing that changes is her eyes. She has, her eyes go to sort of like, being like the iris of her eye becomes sort of like whiter or milky color. And that's how we differentiate between whenever the demon is in power from when Lane is in control. And that's really the only thing that changes. And then, her face, the shape of her face does change subtly over the course of the movie, but they are subtle changes, right? I didn't want this to be too over the top. I wanted it to be, believable, that like as you're watching this, you could really believe that this is happening to someone, and it's not just someone wearing like some big kooky mask.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed how uncomfortable I was throughout the film. That's part of the genre, right?
Yeah.
And even through those breaks where they're trying to plot and figure out what to do next, that there's an entity back there. And
Yeah.
and I always almost I'm watching a screen obviously, but kind of like look back at my shoulder, thinking, what is she going to do something? How did you gauge how many of those scares to put in through? Because I mean, I remember just the subtle moment where she grasps the chairs and her nails crack. Oh, I was sold.
Well, I think what you're talking about is sort of just it's one of those things about filmmaking that is very tricky. The tone and pacing and creating tension is something that I don't think is easily accomplished. It's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I am very fortunate that all the pieces kind of fell into place, I think, on this movie to allow me to shoot it the way that I needed to shoot it in order to evoke that sort of tension and discomfort that you felt. It's funny you mentioned the nails. I wanted to do the nails in the short film, which again, people can see on the DVD when it comes out. The nails were something I wanted to get like them breaking like that, but we didn't have time, I think, on the short film. I think we didn't have time to rig up the nails. We had a very small crew. But I was like, when we do the feature, we are absolutely getting the nails shot. And we did. So it's a great moment.
What was a moment on set where maybe got you super excited after you shot a scene?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I mean, I remember when I remember when the first one that's coming to mind is whenever Chris cuts his throat and he's lying there on the ground, and like we're using all of this blood and they're pouring this blood on the ground. And my DP, Jean-Philippe Bernier, is also the 8-camera operator. And I remember like he brings the camera down and he gets this shot of this blood pooling and running across the floor like this. And I was like screaming off camera, I think, yes, JP, yes, that is amazing. Perfect. Great shot. And that shot's in the movie too, by the way. That was great. And then, I remembered, let me think. Just pretty much everything Alex did whenever she was possessed Lane was so terrific. And I was just, wow. I would cheer every time she would finish a take. Especially towards the end when the demon starts, like basically the demon gets called out for what he's trying to do. And she starts screaming and she has this incredible scream and she's so aggressive and everything like that. It was always so fun to watch her do it because she's so soft. Alex is so soft spoken. She's the last person you would think could act like that, but she does. And so it was really, really, really awesome. So much fun.
Can you talk about the way that you interweb also some of the other themes in the movie? Because I really, you talked about the reality TV. I also wanted to talk about Max, who even as this entire experience begins, he's still thinking about his followers, how many people are watching, and I don't want to give anything away, but it seems even though throughout the film he really cares more about his persona than what's actually going on, and at the same time, people, the worse things are getting, the more they're glued to their screens.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie is very prescient in a lot of ways. I mean, it was written, you know, it was written during a time that is still similar to today, but I think it's almost even more relevant today than it was then. Everybody and their mom knows somebody who calls himself an influencer, right? And if you've ever met any of these influencers, not to speak for all of them, but a lot of them are pretty insufferable people that are just completely all about themselves and always have a phone glued to their face. And I think that's who Max is. I mean, Max represents the worst of that, right? He's a total douchebag. He's always concerned about himself. He wants his blue check mark. He's always trying to look for ways to get more eyeballs on him. So Max is definitely sort of the id of the social media influencer. And then also, the larger message of the movie being, sort of a very negative view of social media and the way that, our reliance on technology can be destructive or detrimental to our society, is even more relevant today than ever. When we were working on the script, it was written before we saw news stories of people committing suicide on Facebook or live streaming assaults and murders and that sort of thing. And because after I started seeing news stories about that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like in our movie. So we actually wrote all that before all that stuff happened, and it's sad to me that came true, but it's also, I think, almost inevitable given the state of affairs in the world today. And even the ending of the movie, if you look at the ending of the short and the feature have pretty much the same ending, but in the feature especially, the way we portray what happens in the world feels so much like what's happening in 2020 or what happened in 2020, and hopefully not in 2021, but it doesn't appear that things are getting any better. So I guess I suppose it's just the luck of the draw, but it is a very culturally relevant movie, both intentionally and unintentionally.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even the ending shots, the credits where you're having things behind them, I found that to be very clever and very thought invoking. As far as this was about a demon in particular, and the damage that you can do on social media at the end of the day, all wrapped up into one film. I thought you guys did fantastic.
Thank you.
So I'm going to wrap this up with, what do you hope audiences leave with after watching The Cleansing Hour?
Well, I hope that they leave the cleansing hour feeling, satisfied that they saw a movie that was a lot of fun for them. I mean, that's obviously been my goal as a filmmaker since I was a little kid. I want to entertain people. That's the biggest thing. I hope people clamor for more and want to see more of my movies and are vocal about it. And they tell everybody to go watch The Cleansing Hour and to buy the DVD. That's what I want people to do.
This particular type of horror genre is not really my cup of tea, but I have to tell you, The Cleansing Hour had just the right mix of thrills, scares, gore, and just an overall message. So I do recommend everybody go out and watch The Cleansing Hour. It's a Shudder original, like you said. Do you know the date for the DVD release?
It's coming out January 19th on DVD and digital. So iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, everywhere you can buy it.
Sounds good. Damien, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Manny.
And congratulations on a great film.
Thank you so much. You have a happy new year.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.